Okay. All right. Hi.
Hey.
Oh, so hi everyone. Angie and I thought it would be really good to just put a video together of us both in the same place at the same time virtually, and just give you a little bit of a background to how quantum connections came to be, and a bit of our vision about where it's going, and a bit more about ourselves as individuals, and what we're bringing to the space. So, where do we start, Angie?
From the beginning. So, like where we met, a little bit about the story of that early beginning. Shall I start?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
So I remember posting on a Facebook group with an air of desperation, looking for new aligned friendships, particularly people with children, because I was feeling the hunger for connection with it in the old normal way. So this was right at the beginning of that very first lockdown, when the world had gone like really crazy, and I wanted to go and play in the park without fear. And so I put a little post out saying, "Hey, will somebody be my friend?" And the
And I
universe gave
responded
me,
to that, didn't I?
yeah,
And we met up sometime after that, and our kids played together, and we discovered we had more in common than just the desire to have freedom play dates. Yeah.
right.
So.
It was a juicy first meeting for a park play, running around after children.
Yes, it was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was like we never stopped talking, did we? It was like, and it felt like there was so much to get through as well. It was like, yeah, it was a really good first meeting.
And
Yeah.
then it didn't take us very long, did it, for us to be sort of sat around my kitchen table, and the conversation was getting a little bit juicier, getting a little bit deeper, and the idea to collaborate came along.
Yeah, just before that, I think was it before that we'd had the women's circle, hadn't we, on the
Oh,
solstice? Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that was
And you
so
led that, and
beautiful.
that was such a beautiful coming together, wasn't it? Gathering. It was just it was amazing. So by that time, we'd met a few other kind of like-minded, like-hearted women, also with children. So we were meeting and the kids were playing together, but also we all had these connections, didn't we? These shared sort of values, and yeah, so we came together for the women's circle.
And what that's bringing up for me is how the conversation turned to the importance of community, and how we could feel that there was community coming together around these themes, and that we were both feeling called to share that, because we'd begun to seed community together, hadn't we, here in our local environment.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we were witnessing people sharing online that they were missing that. And then this is where we thought, oh, we've got something to offer here.
Yeah. And there was also something about you know, it being a really traumatic year, wasn't it? So much change, so much, and if you're awake and aware to what is really happening in the world, so much fear for people to work through. And so it felt like, as well as the community aspect, it was having a safe container for us to be able to share about what was happening in our own processing, and for others to be able to do that as we kind of go through this sort of ascension process, and all the sort of the layers that are coming up to be looked at and transmuted. Yeah,
absolutely. yes to all of that, and something about kind of asking myself, asking ourselves, the like, what can we do? What are we called to offer within all this chaos? And there was a shift for me from putting a lot of my attention into the protests and rallies and the, you know, the waking people up. I'm not too keen on that terminology, you know, but the sort of move from that into, you know, kind of like emerging from the chaos into something more resourced and more visionary.
Absolutely. And yeah, my feelings the same around all of that, you know, the protesting and the, you know, trying to share things to help people to see what's happening. It doesn't feel like that is my calling. I don't think I'm particularly good at it. I'm not very left-brained, and so I don't, you know, getting into sort of debates and discussions about that stuff, it doesn't feel, you know, where my strengths lie. So yeah, it was like, well, what can I do? What can I offer? What is feeling most aligned for me right now? And you know, becoming increasingly aware that this is like a real sort of spiritual unfolding that is happening. And yeah, so it's kind of bringing all of those elements in it, you know, the like the psychological and the spiritual, and bringing all of those to this space that we've created. Yeah, so I don't know, do you want to talk a bit about where you're coming from with all this, sort of your background, Angie, in terms of, you know, what the work that you do with clients? And yeah.
So my primary work is as an integrative counsellor. So I'm a BACP registered counsellor, so, you know, British Association Counselling and Psychotherapy. I love my work. I would say I've very much been pushing at the edges of what counselling is and what I can offer as a counsellor for very many years. So what I'm offering in my counselling room, I'll just talk to you about that for a minute, and then I'd like to talk about the evolution that's going on in my work and what my new offer is. But I'll just talk briefly about the counselling aspect. So in my counselling work, I'm weaving like gentle, intuitive talk therapy with creative, expressive invitations. So what that means is that we're sort of moving, zigzagging between the story and working with symbolism and metaphor. So we can work with the unconscious as it arrives in the creative exploration. So as it arrives in the paper, on the paper, or in movement, or sound. So it's a very interesting, exciting, dynamic process. And as well as that, we're also kind of moving between sort of story and metaphor, symbolism, and body-oriented awareness. So that might be a little bit like sort of slowing down and being curious about how the story, or how the words, or how the creative exploration is experienced in the person right there in that moment. And there are lots of ways that I can support people to soften into receiving that message. It's quite dynamic and sort of moving between all those different kind of channels. What I would say about that is that as a counsellor, it's very boundaried. You know, it's like I'm already pushing at the edges of what counselling is. You know, people come to me as a counsellor and I can offer these other more intuitive, creative approaches, but I'm still restricted. And so this is where now I'm really kind of feeling to get that I'm kind of, you know, expanding out from that. What I'm offering now, what's in process, which I'm really excited about, is these alchemical soul sessions. And so what I'm doing is I'm kind of pulling all of my years of kind of transformational space holding as a counsellor and as a women's circle leader. And I'm putting it into a 6-week process where I'm going to take people through a journey that I've designed, you know, so it's like 1 week, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in that they're going to get access to me for that 6 weeks. So they're going to get a personal, tailored, one-on-one hour with me each week, and they're going to get material that's going to support them through the journey and carry them through the session with me. And what I'm going to be bringing is so much more than I'm able to offer in my counselling room. You know. Yeah, have I said enough? Or
yeah, that sounds perfect. Yes, thank you. And that sounds so exciting. I can't wait to see how that develops for you. Yeah. So is it okay if I just talk about a bit about my journey and
yeah, please, I
it?
really want to hear. Yeah, so
Yeah,
where are you up to in your journey, Rach?
Yeah, so I did a degree in psychology and person-centered counselling over 20 years ago. And so I've got that knowledge and background, but I didn't go into psychology or counselling at that point. I actually went into teaching, and I did that for a good few years. But it's psychology and counselling, they've always been really fascinating to me. You know, it's kind of the bigger questions in life. You know, why do we do things? Why do I do things? You know, looking at behavior and looking at patterns and stuff. It's always been really, really interesting to me. My spiritual journey, I guess, and my sort of self-development journey began in earnest probably 15 years ago when I got into recovery for alcoholism. And I went through the AA program, and then I went through the Codependence Anonymous program. And I really started to be able to look at, you know, my past, my patterns, my story, and to be able to sit with feelings that I'd always suppressed with alcohol, with substances. And it was a real sort of pivotal time. It wasn't easy, but it was a real sort of, things really started to change at that point. And a few years after that, I had my daughter, and this is part of my sort of my evolution and my journey as well. I left teaching at that point, and I'd become very disillusioned with, you know, being in the education system, and I'd seen a lot of kind of flaws and how it wasn't best serving children for their development. And I decided to really take a very different approach with my own daughter, and to raise her in quite a natural sort of a way that was in line with sort of the old, you know, how our ancestors used to raise their children. And it also set me looking down a lot of different rabbit holes in terms of health and education and, you know, vaccinations and all those kinds of things. So yeah, it felt like and just before that, I'd really started looking into like non-duality teachings and following somebody called Scott Killaby. He's a non-duality teacher who comes from an addiction background, and has kind of taken Advaita Vedanta, sort of an old ancient framework within the Hindu religion, and self-inquiry is an aspect of that, and he really turned that into a method of treating addiction. And I was really, really drawn to his teachings, and started looking at all of that around the same time. And as my daughter's grown, I've had more kind of opportunities to be able to go deeper into these things. And last year I undertook training with Scott, and did the Killaby Inquiries training for myself. And again, like at the beginning of my recovery journey, it was like a real sort of watershed moment where I really started to go deep and to really look at those traumas that have been held for a long time, you know, since childhood. And even though I had all of the counselling background, and I'd, you know, I'd done the talking therapies, and I knew about things from a cognitive level, cognitive perspective, I could see all of that, I hadn't actually gone into the felt sensations and emotions within the body. I'd always, I mean, like, when I was drinking, you know, I'd pushed all of those down. But even in recovery, I hadn't really been in a friendly space with what was going on internally. I hadn't been very allowing of it. And so, yeah, it was a real sort of learning journey for me. While I was undertaking the training myself, I was going into all of this very deeply for myself. So, I mean, the training was a few months, and then I started working. I was doing, you know, practice sessions every day. I mean, I really dived into this deeply. I was doing 2 or 3 practice sessions a day, and then started working with clients. And it's been just such a gift, such an absolute gift, to be able to get into this kind of somatic body-based experiencing. And it feels like the missing piece for me. You know, I think it's really important to be able to look at all of this from the cognitive side, but I think, yeah, to really get into these energies within the body, and to be able to, you know, start to allow them to dance and to speak, you know, because your body is always speaking to you. It speaks a language, you know. It's getting into that intuitive inner knowing, you know, that wisdom that is within us. I find it a really magical process, and an incredibly healing process, you know. And it's not a quick fix, you know. It's not an easy solution. It takes work and it takes commitment to this process, but it does, you do reap the rewards with doing it, you know, in a more intimate relationship with yourself, you know, your inner self, that connection with, you know, with who you are, your core being, and with source energy, you know. And I just absolutely love to see that within clients, and to see that process at work, and to see them being able to get in touch with all of that for the first time. It's such a privilege and an honor to be able to hold that safe space for them, so they do feel heard and seen and listened to, maybe for the first time for some people. And I've really appreciated other people being able to do that for me. That has been a huge part of the healing journey for me as well. Yeah, so yeah, sorry, I went on quite a long time there, but yeah, I think that encapsulates all I wanted to say about that.
How do people get to work with you?
Okay, so I've got a Facebook page which is called Embodied Consciousness. You can message me on there. You can book a one-to-one session through there. I've also got a Facebook community which has got the same name, Embodied Consciousness with Rachael Plant. So you can look that up on Facebook, or you can message me on Facebook. So yeah, so I forgot to ask you that, Angie. How do people get in touch with you?
At the moment, one of the ways to get in touch with me is through my page, which is Angie Ravenbear Alchemical Soul Sessions. But you know, we're here in Quantum Connections, aren't you? So you can message me through my personal profile as well. It's all very easy and very relaxed for contacting me.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That sounds great. Okay, so we've also got a collaborative kind of idea coming up that we were quite excited about, because we've just before we started recording, we were kind of talking about it for the first time, and it's been quite a an intuitive sort of, it's spontaneous kind of thing that we've decided we're just going to go for it. We're just going to put it together and we're going to offer it to you, the Quantum Connections members. First of all, you're going to have priority if you want to come and do it with us. I don't know, do you want to talk a little bit about what we were planning earlier?
Oh, I'm trying to decide what little kind of gems to throw out there. So we discussed offering a 5-week process, which we'll give people a private Facebook group. So just the people who are kind of going through this 5-week process will kind of go into there, so we can create a very intimate, connected community where we can kind of share, encourage and support one another. Shall we talk about the themes of the
Sure. Okay. Yes.
So, but I'm not going to go into it in too much detail because, you know, I'm going to leave a little bit of mystery as well. So really excited. So the 5-week journey is going to take us through the themes of circle, child, purse, beauty way, and fire. And my feeling, our feeling is, our hope is that this is a real elegant journey through the connection, through the container, through the depth of self-discovery, and then ancestral healing possibilities, through to recognizing the beauty that's alive in our life and kind of bringing attention and energy to gratitude. And then kind of moving into the kind of the fire, which is like the letting go, the releasing and the purging. And of course, fire arrives with all the sort of symbology of, you know, the transformational fire, like emerging anew and afresh. So there's so much more we can say about that, but this is just like a little, you know, tasty tidbit to get you excited, because we are, aren't we?
We are absolutely so excited. Yeah. And we're going to do it quite soon, I think. I mean, it's going to be within the next few weeks. We're going to get it up and running and invite you to come on to it. So watch this space.
And, you know, I just want to say about that, I think my feeling is that this is a really exciting thing to jump on now, because it's our first course collaboration, and I really enjoy getting involved in things from that kind of like grassroots. It's developing right here, right now energy. And so that's what we're inviting people into.
Yeah, totally. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah, so.
Does that feel like we're sort of coming towards like a feeling of completion?
I think so. Yes. So.
Something. I am aware that when I was talking about my stuff, I didn't talk about, and I don't need to do it now, but I didn't talk about kind of the new elements that I'm kind of bringing into Alchemical Soul Sessions. So I'm open to expressions of interest for that now, and I will endeavour to create a space where I can talk more about what that offer is that I'm developing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Feeling complete enough with that.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds marvellous. Okay. So thank you to all of you for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.